All right, how's it going, everyone? This is Flash coming at you with another severe weather briefing, second in 3 days. Very active pattern wind right now, and I wanted to wake up a little early on Easter Sunday to record this so that I can eventually enjoy Easter festivities later. So this forecast is going to center on the middle Tennessee Valley. It's not going to cover Mississippi or Alabama as much. I will talk about what the Southeast as a whole could experience. So if you're in different states, feel free to keep watching. But being a Nashville native, I want to talk about what we, in particular, will experience today. So we'll start with the day one convective outlook, as we always do. And you can see that we're not in that core moderate risk. Thankfully, there's no high risk out today. So at level 5 out of 5, SPC decided not to go with it. But level 4 out of 5 is still pretty significant. And for enhanced risk, 3 out of 5, it's also something to make note of. We can't take that lightly. Nashville people, you know that on March 2nd, we saw that tornado. We were just in a slight risk at level 2 out of 5 that day. So we know that tornadoes could happen. Granted, that was extreme worst case scenario, but enhanced risk, you definitely have to respect the warnings that come out. Now, I will say, while we're here, while the tornado threat, that actually is new. You can see how confidence has increased a little bit that the warm front is going to, at some point today, bypass Tennessee as it moves south to north and will eventually push into Kentucky, which will allow us to tap into that warm sector. Now, I'm going to talk about, there's still a couple potential scenarios on the table, but this tells me that SPC thinks, to include Nashville in the hatched area. It looks a little odd because it seems like maybe they're trying to just play it safe by including us after what happened last month. I don't know. It's weird that Memphis is not in this hatched yellow zone when it was, I feel like, yesterday maybe. But either way, tornado odds at 10% of a tornado within 25 miles at a given point. And when you talk about the hatched area, that's the 10% plus greater probability zone of an EF2 tornado or stronger. So a 10% hatched zone for a tornado is actually pretty significant. And that's why National Weather Service in Nashville has a tornado risk on a scale from 1 to 5 out of 3 today. We'll see. I'm a little bit skeptical. Wind, though, that's the thing. This actually has changed in the last hour. Nashville's right on that dividing line, that 30-45% probability dividing line. We were a bit more in that about an hour ago. And so I would say the threat is confined for southern middle Tennessee, and I agree with that. Now, 45%, that's essentially a 50-50 chance, a coin flips chance that if you live 25 miles within a given point, you'll experience severe level criteria winds of roughly 60 miles per hour or stronger. They measure things in knots. I just wish they would put the MPH, the mile per hour conversion here, but I believe 58 miles per hour is that cutoff. And so tropical storm winds, like basically a coin flips odds of experiencing tropical storm force winds today, mostly straight line variety, and a squall line that will move through later tonight, as we'll talk about. Still, a lot of this, I wouldn't be surprised if there was non-severe weather wind damage today, with wind gusts very strong in advance of that main squall line. So umbrellas, if you have them outside, the deck, porch variety, make sure to collapse them, move them into a place where they won't blow over. So, because they will get destroyed otherwise. In fact, one advisory, which I believe is when you want to say the threshold for that is 40 miles per hour, and you don't even need, it could be a bright sunny day and you could be in a wind advisory. It's just a matter of how strong will the winds be. All right, now we're National Weather Forecast Office page. You can see plenty of rain. We had a batch move in earlier, a couple hours ago. We have another batch moving in. Then we have this dry period slated, and that's going to be nice because for a lot of us, we'll be able to enjoy Easter service / Easter lunch festivities in dry fashion. The question is, will the sun come out? This is probably the number 1 or 2 question of the day for us. Will the sun come out, heat up the ground, destabilize the atmosphere? Because right now we have a stable atmosphere in place. The rain that's currently falling is cooling the air columns around us. And that's good if you don't want severe weather. In fact, who really wants it on Easter Sunday of all days? Now, down here in Alabama, you see that dry period is going to be prolonged, and that's significant for them because they're going to have a lot more time for the atmosphere to destabilize, and that's why the threat is partly why the threat's greater down there. A lot of strong storms in Texas and Louisiana. Caden, I'm recording. I will get you in a second. Please wait. Life as a parent. All right. Hey, you obeyed pretty quickly and without fuss. That's awesome. So shades. I've heard. Okay, so the National Weather Service in Morristown, that's the Knoxville CWA. They were talking about how this is going to be the greatest threat since April 27, 2011, and I kind of saw where they're coming from, but I think that might be an exaggeration. The one thing that I will say that elicits some comparison is the fact that, like that day, we were in an elevated risk. I believe we were in a moderate risk, but you had a morning batch of storms and also even the afternoon. Like we never really caught a break for the sun to come out and really heat things up and for the energy to recharge. And we eventually had a cap break, but it came after the main energy had moved on past. And I think that there's going to be a similar script today where the cap is going to break. And I think southern middle Tennessee, south of 40, will see the higher odds of those higher CAPE values, kilograms per joules. You're talking about convective available potential energy. And I just don't think we're going to get a lot of that north of 40. So in my town of White Bluff, I think we're on the outside looking in on this threat, to be honest, even though we're technically in that enhanced risk. And I still think that we can get some straight line wind damage later tonight, depending on where you are, but it's going to be spotty. It's going to be isolated, where it's going to be more concentrated the further south that needs to go. So Mississippi, Alabama, you're again in that core, just like you were on April 27th. There's probably some other analogs I could use, but certainly it's going to be a red letter day. So I get why some weather offices are using that. I'm just going to go into pivotal weather. I'm not going to worry about going to tropical tidbits just because pivotal weather basically will show the same thing, but just you could click on the regional view, and I talked about that in my last time. You could just get a better look regionally at what to expect, and they have a fuller list of severe weather parameters. So, and it's just for my MacBook Air, I just think it's more user friendly, just navigating, because this part of the page here is where you want to be at. So HRRR, one of the short-term models that updates every hourly. We're going to look at that, and this is that, and where the forecast is updated regularly. So don't, there might be some things that I say now that might be obsolete, and there might be some things, that I still think that anyone in Middle Tennessee should pay attention to the threat again, just from the straight level wind probabilities in the tornado hatched area alone. I don't think hail is going to be as big of an issue today as it was a few days ago. So let's get to our lapse rate. So let's talk about what we're going to see. This is the average. Okay, let's actually go. I don't think the 12Z is initiated yet. We'll do the most recent run that's initiated all the way through. And we'll go, let's skip to 6. And so what this is, again, Zulu time, in case you missed my last vid, 17Z. You subtract 5 from that to get Central Daylight Time. So this is new. When the 11Z initiated, that was an hour or two ago. So this is new. And we're in a dry period. The question is, will the cloud deck remain? Will it linger? How warm is it going to get? How muggy, how unstable, how sticky is it going to feel outside? And I totally forgot to bring this up earlier, this low pressure system here. Where is it going to track? Because believe it or not, if it tracks more north than east and runs over St. Louis, that's bad news for us because that puts us more in the warm sector. The more in the warm sector you are in a severe weather threat, the worse it's going to be, most likely. The closer that low tracks to you, you can still get some bad weather, some nasty stuff, but you're not as you're not as pronounced in that warm sector. So the warm front is not as far north from you. It may be sitting on you. In that case, you still, like, temps are not going to recover so quickly. Vertical air motion is subdued a little bit, and that inhibits that upper level divergence when you kind of look at the domino effect. So a low that tracks closer to you is good if you don't want severe weather. If it tracks further away from you, when you have a low that's situated right here, now, if you want snow in the winter, it's different. You want that to go south of you. But if you want severe weather, you want it to go north, so you get that warm, juicy air. So we're going to watch what this low does with the precip shield out ahead of it. And this might be, am I looking, let me pause for a second and think about, we're talking about surface to 500 millibar thickness, that's roughly 8 surface feet. So there's a surface low and upper low with this. So if the low crosses over the Boot Hill portion of Missouri, and it looks like it's going to do that. Look at that low go up. Is it getting stronger? I think it's getting a little stronger, but it's also, it's getting stronger as the millibars go down. But look how look from 11. Look at this jump here. You think it's going to probably get into western Kentucky, but it takes a real northward jaunt there into southern Illinois, which is interesting. I thought the low that's here would be more here. So it's interesting that there's a more northward component of motion to that. Still, that's Boot Hill. That's Boot Hill crossing, and that's good. Yesterday, I was thinking if it does this and passes closer to St. Louis, that's not as great. So this doesn't look so crazy to me. Let's take a look at a sounding. If it will load, getting all kinds of activity issues. Probability hazard types, none. Look at that. Like, that's a saturated column. No mixing at the mid levels. There's no gaps between those environmental and those lapse rates there. So now we're still talking about early afternoon. Let's reset. That's 0Z, so that's 7. Sorry, we were just looking at 6 p.m. This is 7 p.m. There's going to be multiple gaps today. That low is now in Indiana. I'm just taking this hour by hour. Oh, can't go any further than that. No. All right. There is that risk of flooding today. I don't want to underestimate flash flooding through excessive downpours. I would say that might be, for some of you, the greatest impact from this, believe it or not. But it's going to be a gusty day, and if I can, I gotta go down here. Let's look at. We'll look at lapse rates, and then we'll look at Cape. So not surprisingly, as you get closer to that low, and I do feel like what we're seeing here, like that's going to be the trajectory for these lows. If there's multiple waves in play, they're going north and west of us. You could see that represented by rates, interestingly enough. Energy velocity measures that spin and that rotation of the atmosphere. You have some, but it's not, and that's 11 p.m. Is there any? I think all the severe weather parameters, I really believe it's going to be further south. See that here. I just think there's going to be a cutoff. I was going back and just kind of looking. We'll do supercell composite and STP and just see, like, is there any reason? Like, because right now I'm not seeing the evidence of why. At least we're only looking at one model, though. We have to look at others, but it's almost like I get the feeling, and we haven't looked at the worst cases. HRRR has been best case for those who don't want severe weather. It's been best case model for a while. And the NAM3, which we haven't gone to yet, is more of a worst case, but it's generally exaggerated. And even if you blend the two, okay, I'm not even seeing anything in the supercell composite for us. Very low. STP. I think Southeast Tennessee, by the way, needs to pay attention to this too. If you're in Chattanooga, be on alert. I do think that you're going to need to pay attention. You're in a different setup, different dynamics where you are, location, different geographically. Yeah, it just seems like the border is a cutoff today. Now, we were looking at one. Yeah, it just seems like and I'm looking at this raw with a pair of eyes. I did not prep for this. In fact, it's probably better I don't prep for this because it adds a layer of authenticity, I feel like. I don't know where I'm going and where I'm navigating, but you can see the thought process. You can see look at this. The computer knows my anniversary is tomorrow. It's giving me flower options. What in the world? All right. That's awesome. NAM is more, you got 3-hour increments here. You can see they do cross. This is the STP. Anything over a 1 significant, and you can see how in southern, this is more southwest middle Tennessee. Oops, let me went the wrong way. Whoa, okay. Whoa, that is interesting. Whoa. Why though? I mean, okay, and that's healthy Cape values over 1,000. I mean, you're in business a lot of times in April, so what in the world? Why is there such a major discrepancy between the HRRR and the NAM? The NAM is on steroids a lot of times. It's like worst case scenario. The people at Nashville Severe Weather on Twitter were talking about this. You got to give like 10 to 20% credits to the NAM, and we're within 24 hours now, so I don't even know. Sorry, I want to respect the threat today as much as I can and see where SPC is coming from. That's a lot of helicity. I don't think helicity is going to be the problem, but I feel like the HRRR is capturing something that is more accurate. That's just me. I'm trying to think we could try another short-term model like the HRRR and kind of see if we could find a truth in the middle type situation. Like, I think we just looked at best and worst case scenarios. I really believe that. Is there something else out there that maybe captures a middle ground? I think with the way the load's tracking, I'm not worried about helicity. So I'm not going to worry about helicity. I haven't looked at. Oh no, I don't want to look at that either. Let's look at Cape. Because really, if you don't have the instability, you're not going to get anything. You need forcing. We could have great dynamics, which I'm not sold on the dynamics. And the forcing, the lift, you could have some components, but instability is just without that, and it's really, really tough. You'd have to have like record-setting values to get a really bad outbreak without instability. Okay, so we're back at the hourly, so let me fast forward to 18. Oh, this was initiated a while ago because it's not even, all right, let's go. That's 0Z, so that's what point? Okay, we're getting closer now. Closer. Probably should have done this soon. Well, no, that's the 0Z, so that initiated last night, but still. Well, no. That's some, by the way. We're not shut out at instability, by the way. But look at that. I-40, kind of a cutoff there. If you get in the blues, the grayish blues there, you're in the ball game at that point. And then we're in the ball game. Look at it creep northward. We're at 1400 here. All right, so what does this mean? I feel like there's going to be a window. The more I look at this, the more I feel like there's going to be a narrow window of opportunity. Well, that's significant, supercell composite. But then again, I think this particular model is NAM driven. See, look, that's significant too. I feel like this is a cousin of the NAM. Is there let me check. Is this the rapid refresh? What in the world? Look at that. That puts us in the bullseye. When is this? What is this? So I haven't looked at the RAP I haven't looked at it at all in the last week or so. It's been off my radar, pun intended. PTSD tornado, of course, with about values like that. This is more of a not quite loaded gun. It's more of a muted loaded gun. But still, look at that spin up there. There's plenty of rotation difference. Not only changing of wind direction with height, but you also have the speed change with height. That's what this measures, the photograph. Let me go back to the regional. Oh, that's only national view only. Yeah. Okay. Well, I need to wrap this up anyway. I'm going to go back to the HRRR and see if I missed anything in my assessment of that earlier. I just have a feeling that despite what the other models are saying, that the HRRR is onto something, and I got to go with my gut. There is some here, like, is this anafrontal? No, I don't. Sorry. HRRR does kind of say that, in its own way, that there's a window there, but I think I just got to go with the HRRR here. I feel like you have this window, but it's a very small one in terms of things coming together. If we're going to see any severe weather, this would be the time frame to have it. Let me see. That makes more sense. If we're over 1, which you heed, but it's a minor one. What time is this? It's 19. That's that's 1 in the morning. This is going to be another overnight threat. The worst of it's going to be overnight for us. Most of it is off to our south and east by that point. There's like a secondary piece of energy that will be ejecting. And maybe by this point we had more time in the warm juicy air, but look how small this is relative to this. Value difference is notable too. There's going to be a window, but I think HRRR is more on something. So, all right. I want to look at this track. I forget where I go to find the tracks. Well, it's just out of curiosity. I want to take a look at temperature height real quick. This is not so far from us. A couple thousand feet up. It's going to be warm and juicy at this point. But right now, you could see that the front is down here. We got winds from the south. But look, that rain cooled air right here. You could see it. All right. I've been recording quite a bit, so I actually may run this at 1.2x speed in light of the duration. But all things considered, we do have a threat in our hands that we must respect and heed, have a way of getting warnings as usual, not just one way, but two ways. I'm going to preach to the choir as long as I have to. You got to get a NOAA radio. If you're not going to get the apps on your phone, if you're not going to have multiple ways of getting alerts on your phone, get a NOAA radio. In fact, I still encourage if you have good apps on your phone, because if technology is failing you on one end, chances are it's not going to fail you in the other one. We saw that last month as well. Don't rely on sirens because it's World War II technology and it's hit and miss, and sometimes they sound when they're not supposed to. In fact, a lot of times that's what happens, and they cry wolf and people are taken off guard. Let's not, in fact, we're getting another overnight threat here with this. Let's not be unprepared. Let's not sleep on it because it's Easter. Let's really be on guard together, and we'll get through this as we always do. All right. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a wonderful Easter. Godspeed.